6 p.m. now, Cairo local time. It's a very good evening to our viewers and welcome to Channel 2's English News Bulletin. I'm Angie Meher joining you, and we begin straight away with a look at the headlines. Israel says it launches strikes on drone sites in western Iran. Israeli occupation army kills at least 50 people near aid site. Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbuli holds joint press conference with Serbian counterpart following talks in Cairo. Welcome back. Now the details in full. Israel appeared to be expanding its air campaign against Tehran 5 days after its surprise attack on Iran's military and nuclear program sites, as U.S. President Donald Trump posted an ominous message warning residents of the capital to evacuate. Israel says its sweeping assault on Iran's top military leaders, nuclear scientists, and uranium enrichment sites and ballistic missile program is necessary to prevent its longtime adversary from getting any closer to building an atomic weapon. Iran has retaliated by launching more than 370 missiles and hundreds of drones at Israel. So far, 24 people have been killed in Israel and more than 500 others wounded. The Israeli military, meanwhile, said a new barrage of missiles was launched Tuesday and explosions could be heard in northern Israel. Strikes have killed at least 224 people in Iran and wounded 1,277 since Friday. Israel said it launched extensive strikes targeting missile and drone sites in western Iran. Explosions and smoke were reported in Iran's western city of Tabriz, home to a major airbase. Journalists also reported loud explosions over Tel Aviv, where police said shrapnel fell and caused damage, but no casualties. Iran has said its targets in Israel include sensitive and important security sites, as well as the residences of military commanders and scientists. U.S. President Donald Trump posted a message on his social media sites calling for the immediate evacuation of Tehran, but later denied reports he'd rush back to Washington to work on a ceasefire. Israel's air campaign on the Iranian capital appeared to broaden an intensifying conflict after it issued warnings for about 300,000 people in Tehran to evacuate ahead of airstrikes. People were seen leaving the city Tuesday morning, the 5th day of the intensifying conflict. China on Tuesday accused American President Donald Trump of pouring oil on the mounting conflict between Iran and Israel after the U.S. leader warned Tehran residents to immediately evacuate. Following decades of enmity and a prolonged shadow war, Israel launched a surprise aerial campaign last week against targets across Iran, saying it aimed to prevent its archfoe from acquiring atomic weapons. The sudden flare-up in hostilities has sparked fears of a wider conflict, with Trump urging Iran back to the negotiating table after Israel's attacks derailed the ongoing nuclear talks. The European Union Foreign Policy Chief, Kaja Kallas, on Tuesday reaffirmed the need for an urgent de-escalation in the Middle East, where Iran and Israel have been firing missiles at each other since Friday, whilst also saying Tehran should not develop a nuclear bomb. She told reporters after a meeting with EU foreign ministers that they all agreed the urgent need for de-escalation, and Iran could not have a nuclear bomb, and diplomacy was the solution to prevent this, and the EU will play its part. Meanwhile, Jordan's King Abdullah II warned in an address to the European Parliament on Tuesday that Israel's attacks on Iran threaten to dangerously escalate tensions in the region and beyond. The Jordanian monarch said that with Israel's expansion of its offensive to include Iran, there was no telling where the boundaries of the battleground would end. He also added that this was a threat to people everywhere and the conflict must come to an end. In more news, Israeli occupation forces on Tuesday killed at least 50 people near an aid distribution site in Khan Yunis in the territory's south. We have the details.
Israeli occupation forces on Tuesday killed at least 50 people gathered near an aid distribution site in Khan Yunis in the territory's south. Civil defense spokesman Mahmoud Bassal also said that more than 200 were wounded as thousands of Palestinians gathered to receive flour at a charity aid center in the morning. He said Israeli occupation drones fired at the citizens, adding that some minutes later, Israeli tanks fired several shells at the citizens, which led to a large number of martyrs and wounded. The Israeli occupation army said it was looking into the incident, a daily occurrence at the U.S.-Israeli mechanism centers in Gaza. The Gaza Strip had months of aggression by Israeli occupation forces. The health ministry in Gaza said on Monday that 5,139 people have been killed since Israelis resumed strikes on the territory on March 18, following their reneging on a ceasefire deal. The overall death toll in Gaza since the Israeli aggression broke out on October 7, 2023, has reached 55,432 people.
Moving to Russia, where Russian strikes killed at least 14 people and wounded dozens in Kiev, and what Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Tuesday called one of the most horrific attacks on the capital. Zelensky said an entire section of an apartment block was destroyed and rescuers were searching under the rubble for possible survivors. Foreign media journalists said they heard drones flying over the city and explosions ringing out as Ukrainian air defense systems opened fire during the Russian barrage. Ukraine's interior minister, meanwhile, said some 27 locations in Kiev were also hit. Now back home, the Prime Minister, Dr. Mustafa Madbuli, and his Serbian counterparts attended the inauguration of the Egyptian-Serbian Economic Forum in the attendance of representatives from both the Egyptian and Serbian corporations. Addressing the forum, Madbuli asserted the continuous joint visits and cooperation between Egypt and Serbia enhanced bilateral ties in various domains. Prime Minister also said Egypt's government provides a lot of incentives for the private sector to enhance its role in the development process, adding that huge opportunities are available for Serbian investors in Egypt. In related news, Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbuli also held a joint press conference with the visiting Serbian Prime Minister following their talks in Cairo earlier on Tuesday. Addressing the press conference, Madbuli described talks with his Serbian counterpart as fruitful, adding that they also touched on agricultural files and food security. Prime Minister noted they agreed during the talks on backing peaceful resolutions to the undergoing tensions in the region. He also highlighted Egypt's support to Serbia and its approach for the Open Balkan Organization. For his part, the Serbian Prime Minister said his visit to Egypt reflects strong ties between the two countries, adding that Egypt is a main pillar in reaching stability for the Middle East. He expressed his keenness at boosting economic cooperation with Egypt, especially in the tourism sector. The two prime ministers also attended the launch of the Egyptian-Serbian Business Council, attended by representatives from Egyptian and Serbian business organizations. And the Prime Minister, Dr. Mustafa Madbuli, witnessed the signing of a memorandum of understanding to expand Egypt's tourism sector by developing new hotel rooms and branded residential units in major tourist destinations. The deal is part of broader efforts by the country to enhance tourism infrastructure and attract more visitors. The memorandum of understanding was inked Tuesday by ADD Properties and Hyatt Hotels Corporation in the presence of the Minister of Tourism. Madbuli described the signing as a supportive step towards establishing Egypt as a premier global investment and tourism hub. For his part, the tourism minister said the signing of the MOU reflects the confidence of major global institutions in the future of Egypt's economy and the potential of its rapidly growing tourism sector. And moving to our economic segment, the Prime Minister, Dr. Mustafa Madbouli, emphasized the government's commitment to serious and regular follow-up of agricultural and irrigation projects. Madbouli explained that irrigation plays a pivotal role in managing water resources and adapting to natural environmental changes, which in turn ensure the availability of agricultural products and contribute to achieving food security. This came during the Prime Minister's meeting of Ministers of Irrigation and Water Resources and Agriculture and Land Reclamation to follow up on the development of the irrigation system for sugarcane cultivation. In this context, Minister of Agriculture and Land Reclamation emphasized the importance of sugarcane cultivation, along with the transition to modern irrigation methods aimed at reducing water consumption and increasing crop productivity. Moving to Egypt's stock market indices that edged lower at the close on Tuesday, affected by selling operations by Egyptian corporations as well as Arab and foreign investors, whilst Arab and foreign corporations, in addition to local investors, went into purchasing. Capital market for companies listed in the bourse lost about 30 billion Egyptian pounds, reaching 2.182 billion pounds. Benchmark EGX 30 was down by 1.02%. Ending the day's dealings at 30,725.96 points. Equal weighted index EGX 70 also declined 2.44% to reach 8,999.11 points, and the more expanded EGX 100 was also down by about 2.22%, closing the session at 12,234.08 points. Moving to crude, oil prices jumped and equities fluctuated Tuesday as investors weighed Donald Trump's call for Tehran residents to evacuate in hopes that the conflict between Israel and Iran does not descend into an all-out war. While the crisis in the Middle East continues to instill uncertainty, talk that the Islamic Republic wanted to make a nuclear deal was providing some optimism. Prices bounced back Tuesday after Trump called for the evacuation of the Iranian capital, which is home to nearly 10 million people. Oil climbed more than 1% in late Asian trade Tuesday after swinging between gains and losses throughout the day. Now moving to the exciting world of sports, kicking off with Real Madrid. Defender Sergio Ramos said his former team, Real Madrid, must be considered favourites to win the Club World Cup. Paris Saint-Germain recently won the UEFA Champions League by thrashing Inter Milan in the final, with Liga MX side Monterrey set to face the Italians in their opener on Tuesday at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena. Madrid have a new coach in Xabi Alonso, as well as recent arrivals Trent Alexander-Arnold and Dean Hutchinson. Madrid opened their campaign in Miami on Wednesday against the Saudi Arabian side Al Hilal. And finally, former AC Milan and Napoli manager Gennaro Gattuso has been appointed Italy's national team coach. The Italian Football Federation said Gattuso replaces Luciano Spalletti, who was sacked last week following a heavy defeat by Norway in the World Cup qualifier. Former midfielder will be formally introduced as coach on Thursday at Rome's Parco di Principi Hotel. Gattuso, who won the Coppa Italia with Napoli in 2020, is tasked with getting 4 times world champions Italy to next year's World Cup after they missed out on the last 2 editions of the tournament. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we wrap up this evening's English News Bulletin here on Channel 2. You're in the company of myself, Angie Meher. Thank you for watching.